We have been talking about economic diversity for what? More than 3 decades. And because the diamonds were giving us easy money, it's talk and very little action.
And my guest today is someone who's traveled the world, who studied with UN, with AU, across looking at the aspect of social development. So please allow me to introduce Dr. Onalenna Selolwane.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Khaitsediak. We have tended to build a nation where now people depend on government handouts. That cannot be sustainable. We were very much aware that our government was extremely poor. So we grew up with that thing, we share. What you have, you share. And that the nation is greater than us. There has been a separation between government and its people. Government had gone in one direction and left the people behind. And I don't think we have actually brought the people back, government and the people. The government must step back and let the people actually be the economic agents. Our civil servants and our politicians did not seem to see that we are heading to trouble. As far as they were concerned, government had so much money and it will continue having so much money. The thing is how to spend it, not how to make it. So there's that combination. Who is the leader? Are they still committed to the ethos you serve?
Welcome to the Growth Well podcast, where we tap into a well of knowledge, innovation, and leadership to fuel Africa's growth. Here, we explore thought-provoking insights and expert knowledge that empower individuals and businesses to thrive across the continent. Whether it's personal development or professional advancement, our conversations inspire action and impact. This is Growth Well, where ideas flow and growth begins. Let's dive in.
Here we go again, Growth Well family. Today we are on a subject that's actually very dear to me and it's interesting because when I was, some of you know that I'm an engineer by profession. When I grew up to be, doing sciences, engineering, there was a whole thrust that we need more engineers than social scientists and the humanities. But it's interesting that I've actually done a whole flip around after assessing our society that we actually need more social scientists. And my guest today is someone who's traveled the world, who studied with UN, with AU, across looking at the aspect of social development. But before we start, let me remind you of something. Going back to a country like Sweden in the 1930s, there was a gentleman called Per Albin Hansson, who was a prime minister in 1936. And he set a tone for his country to say, Sweden will become an egalitarian country. And just hear what they called it. They said, in Swedish, they called it Folkehemmet, which is the people home. They wanted to create Sweden as a big home where there's trust, there's community, and there's that little bit of egalitarian. Within 10 years, Sweden today is one of the most equal countries in the world. It's also one of those countries that appear very well in the happiness rankings globally. So it can actually happen. And I've said it before in this podcast that when you have the right leadership with clear focus, sometimes you can deliver. But this is not for me. This is for our guests to really unravel this topic. So please allow me to introduce Dr. Onalenna Selolwane.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Khaitsediak. Yeah, no, I'm glad to be here. And I'm always glad to see Botswana love their country so much that they want consistently for us to share ideas of how we can build this nation and leave a legacy for our grandchildren that they should be very proud that we existed and that we left them something to build on. Yaka Motswana re kana letlhaku le batla ntse la agelwa mo go le lengwe When you start afresh, go na le diphatlanyana.
Emma.
But when you build on one that has been there and you really plug up the holes.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I have to say, and we've talked for quite some months since last year, and I was worried I've approached certain elderly people to come to the podcast and share the wisdom of the past. You know, we mentioned one name earlier, one of the youngest ministers in government. No, come and share us how you interface with Sarazakama. They are very reluctant. And a few others.
Batswana ba bua ba maru Batswana malatsing a ma the anger and unhappiness it dira gore ba ska botho jole ja rena jole people are now terrified gore ga ba batle go roga kana people mistake robust debate with taking down others. That doesn't help. It reflects badly on the person who's taking others down. And it doesn't advance us. But yeah, people are terrified of being brought down.
Now, in the end, we'll talk about your very colorful background. But I like to first start with Miss Selolwane, ke mang me gone hela as a person. Ke motsadi, ke rakgadi, ke mamalume.
Yeah. Well, ke bidwa Onalenna Selolwane.
Emma.
Ke ngwana ga ikgopoleng my mother.
Okay.
She died at 92. I thought she would actually hit 100. Ke monna wa ga Gertrude Selolwane. That's my mom's firstborn child.
Yes.
She was firstborn to her mother and her father. But otherwise, a Botswana girl who's now 70, pushing 71. Spent the early years of my life in Francistown, and then my sister brought me here when the capital town was moving from Mafikeng to Gaborone. So I was here early 1965. Before my 10th birthday. To, the euphoria of independence.
Yeah.
And somehow our leaders inculcated in us, even as young as that age. Yeah, we are collectively involved in building the nation. And that, yes, there will be those who will have some privileges, but those privileges are not for us, but to serve. So my generation really was brought up right up to university. I taught at the University of Botswana. I taught at Moyeng College for 3 years. Having majored in sociology and history, since we was and I don't teach.
It was a big thing those days. I
had to quickly learn how to teach English. Because, I had lived in Gaborone most of my life. And Banaba Gaborone are competent in speaking English.
Correct.
And so to be thrust in a school, the kids are essentially from catchment rural. And a number of them had come from very poor schools. The textbooks are the students are still here.
Yes.
I needed to, as a 22-year-old girl, how do I bridge the gap and ensure Form 2 class and Form 4 that, in fact, when they write, they will compete with Banaba GSS. It was a tall order, but when you are 22, you feel you can move mountains. But nothing is too challenging. Here is the task. Somebody had confidence in me, and I am going to do it.
Yeah.
And I taught English and social studies.
Okay.
In development studies.
Yes, I remember.
And so I was able to use my sociology, my political science, to actually develop what to teach. And for the first time, that school obtained, I think, about 6 A's in development studies.
Really?
Yes.
Go, girl! Now, when you mentioned, there's something interesting you said. in 1965, you were 10 years old, and Botswana was at the verge of attaining independence. And you say, I like to say more about the vibe of the sort of the Khamas when they were young and the war, Ramasire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Remember, we had, prior to that, we had lived in segregated. I mean, Francistown was segregated.
Yes. Even Mafikeng, I think we all know.
No, I didn't go to Mafikeng. My sister was a public servant.
Okay.
So, Kibane ba berekela ko Mahikeng.
Got you.
And then they were transferred here. But, I lived my formative years pre my 10th birthday was essentially across the railway was white living areas. And then
in
Francistown. And then I hadn't been there Mokika Bonang before then. The area where we lived, Batobanso had also built homes. But those were knocked down because of the politics. Black people were, People's Party was, People's Party was actually formed in Blakey Selolwane's yard. Yes. And so the politics of the time with Batwanso protester against being denied like beer. The Tati company had a monopoly. And my first classroom was the old beer hall where they had actually brewed Bojala Botswana. And so Bobaba pusher across the river. So there was a river and a railway cutting blacks off. Haba protest
Yes.
Yes. And then we moved to Gaborone. Blacks and whites are
everybody's just mixing up.
Like, Jesus Christ, this is what independence is going to look like.
Yes.
Hosana, that racial discrimination.
Yeah.
And then you had the first government school, Gaborone Secondary School, where I would later also do my Form 1, 1969. Bringing what we Francistown in white and then Africans and then colored.
Yeah, there was still a colored community.
There was a colored area.
It was a replica of South African structures.
Exactly. And then suddenly you have this melting pot called Gaborone. You have Banaba Makalate from Bokarakubisi and Netlane coming to sleep in the same dorms as black kids from villages, some of them never having slept on a bed before. It was really a melting pot that built relations that are still here. Most of the white kids didn't actually stay. They didn't even, you'd find a couple of white kids over time, but they were given the option now. These were British back to England school, and some South Africa. But your colored kids, your Indian kids, and blacks, and then other diplomats who didn't want to send their kids far from home. It was a real melting pot. We were learning the 1965, 66 group, 67 group. Hey, Mutamudim,
they didn't understand the English.
So it was quite an experience. To go through those years of transformation. It was exciting. I was you could switch off the light.
Yes.
And it seemed to show everything.
Illumination.
And to actually have running water inside the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
When you mentioned 10 years old, I just recalled when the late Sratsa Khama passed on, and there was a memorial at the National Stadium. I don't know, was it 80 or 81? I was confused.
It was 80 because
80.
My child was born the year Sratsa. I was carrying him around the coffin.
You went to the stadium?
No.
Oh, okay. When he was placed by the parliament.
Parliament.
Yes. Okay.
I was carrying my son, who would then be born a couple of October.
Yeah. So my mother took me. We went together. I was 11 because I was born in 69 when you were doing your Form 1.
Okay.
So we went to the stadium, and I remember exactly where we sat. And it was just an amazing, one of those moments that I never forget, especially speeches of Dr. Kaunda, with the Sakatukunyana,
yes.
Saying, Ruth, my sister.
And the translation, the beautiful translation.
I don't know if it was a Remono, my uncle who was translating.
Okay.
Beautiful translator.
The translations, it's a Rempotokwani, the father to Lebang.
Yes. Beautiful.
I used to enjoy the old man's translation.
Oh, beautiful.
So,
there was very good in translations those
were
days.
Exciting times.
Yeah. So, but what I want to ask you is that because kids today, they don't seem to participate in national events. Do you think even the euphoria when you arrived in Gaborone in 65 and when my mother grabbed me to go and attend, and mind you, my mother was, she came here Kalenyalo by marriage because she's from South Africa. But she's always been a very passionate, patriotic Botswana. They always appreciated being homed in Botswana. So we went to the funeral. And from then onwards and a few other things, then the country sort of get embedded in your system.
Exactly.
Can you relate to that?
That is true. I can't help but be that Botswana that gave me my identity and my pride and the belief in humanity that when you are willing, you don't just self-advance, you advance better and in a very gratifying manner when you can also advance with others. Help others to advance. That was inculcated so early. We were very much aware that our government was extremely poor.
Yes.
That we were we didn't even know we were poor, but because we were being compared to others.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
We'll illustrate
Again,
later.
we had 3 meals
because you don't
day.
know that you're actually poor when you are poor. That's why it doesn't affect your happiness level.
Plus, there's also nothing to compare with.
That's
who is actually rich. Why one?
Yes.
And so we grew up with that thing. We share. What you have, you share. And that the nation is greater than us. We must be. And of course, you need a leadership that makes you feel that you also are important in nation building, in the development of the country. Yeah. So our young people, Batsile in Botswana, that was, when you are talking about the young people who are not involved, they don't know what it is like only once in a year. Except those that still live in poor rural areas.
That still don't have shoes,
I remember our second body master at GSS, Remakema, who was my best friend's father.
Okay.
Choir master happy. We would go to competitions, my dear. They pinch like nobody's business. But
it was common to walk quietly because
until our choir is on stage, I have to bear the pain, and then try to walk home in those pinching shoes. By the time I got to the mall, I had to kick them off because every step was painful. So our kids, they get new shoes. And so they have lived in a Botswana, there has been a separation between government and its people, which Ramasire recognized where government had gone in one direction and left the people behind. And hence the initiation of Vision 2016. It was a recognition. We have lost the people. And I don't think we have actually brought the people back to government and the people. We haven't. But maybe that is.
You know, I knew that we spent so much time, we haven't even started. And I knew I was going to enjoy this. But let's get back to, because we haven't talked about your background in terms of relevance to the topic.
So,
because in terms of now your actual CV and what you've done, I know that you are a PhD in development studies and you worked quite widely across Africa on social development, policy development, covering gender, poverty, youth, and so forth. Just summarize it for me.
Let me correct. I have never actually worked outside Botswana.
Okay.
I have served the African region in many capacities within the network of African scholars because the very commitment we serve is what helped us to build an organization, a Pan-African organization of African scholars that would then later become very much engaged in the development of the Vision for Africa 2063. I was actively involved in the various think tanks to build that vision. What kind of Africa do we want? Having celebrated 50 years of African independence, what should the African citizen look for in an Africa in the next 50 years? By the time we celebrate our day, I participated in a number of think tanks through this Pan-African organization of scholars called CODESRIA, the Council for the Development of the Social Sciences in the continent. And it was through them that I also served at the UN, not as an employee, but also as in a committee, two committees actually, that the committee that met in New York essentially was to advise the members of the UN on what to do with the least developing countries, the least developed. When will they graduate? Because a number of them have been there since 1971.
That's right.
Botswana was the first to graduate. So by the time I joined that committee, Botswana had long been kicked out because it had already become a middle-income economy. And then I also served in Geneva for 6 years in a committee that did research on social development. So that was my contribution now to the world beyond the African continent. But not as an employee.
Not as an employee. You're still housed here and just membership of those. Okay. And suffice to add that you're still a member of the African Sociological Association. You're still a member?
No. The African Sociological Association, unfortunately, it didn't fully take off. I was in the initial Netlani and then...
To conceptualizing it. Yeah. Okay. No, great stuff. I think that's. I think if we can go through your CV, we'll be here forever.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to go back to. Let's go back to Botswana and then paint the picture, because what I've been struggling with is we had going back to the founding fathers, and again based on the social development of the country. And as you said, most of the cabinet, most of the MPs were not very educated at the time, but they laid that foundation. Especially the one that I like most is the prudence aspect of it. And obviously bedding down the democratic principles, the first constitution of that. That's Saratsakama. And I'm saying this within the context of us now jumping to social development for the country. And then we had Tumila Masira, I think you got it. He looked at the long-term Vision 2016, but also at the Ministry of Planning and Finance. There's a lot of long-term planning that he embedded in the system. Then we had Remogai. These are now the sequence of our presidents in Botswana. Remogai very renowned for what he did because you could see the country was burning because of HIV/AIDS, and he did a lot of that, which is good for our social well-being as a country. Then came Tate Khama. Tate Khama came, and these are the things that we discussed. I mean, it's not necessarily well researched, but he came with the 4Ds, which people were looking for at this development, democracy, what. But what pops out is how the country was almost made into a semi or pseudo security state where we start watching what we are saying, and the DIS was formed and all that. And I'm just again looking at it from the context of, did it make Botswana a better place from a social harmony point of view? Then Ramasisi came in, Holabaloo, inclusivity, mananeo. Again, does it make us a better place? Up until now, where we have the BNF-led coalition of UDC. As you know, it's a very left-leaning, historically a left-leaning political party with a social democratic type agenda. And we're looking forward to see how they can address this really horrific social crisis that I call in Botswana. But the first question for you is, going back to Bosasa Khama, do you believe that, because globally when you walk around, I was even talking to someone earlier this week who said, Botswana has got such goodwill globally for, that's a country that's managed diamonds properly, even socially, with all those educated people. So do you believe that success, we have reason to celebrate it in the end?
Unfortunately in life, you can't be just living on the glory of the past. You have to consistently look at the now and the future. If you look at, I usually divide Botswana into decades. What happened in the first decade, and the second decade, and the third, etc., etc. And then also because I've because of my Pan-African
the work that you did.
I also do at Pan-African level what I do nationally. And there was a time when the two coincided.
Okay.
The year that I was involved in mapping the National Sustainable Development Framework was the very year that I was also mapping for the Africa agenda
at a continental level.
Continental level, and then also at UN level in terms of what to do with the least developed country.
Yes.
So I was able to in order to manage that 3-level thing. Basically focus on certain pointers because I couldn't do the whole thing. So I focused on education, I focused on housing, and then the population, so that I could actually do comparisons, so that I could just build on the research level. Okay, now I'm dealing with this at Botswana level, and then now I'm dealing with Africa level. Now I'm dealing with the global comparing the continents in those key areas. So Botswana under Seretse Khama, if you look at right from our transitional plan, Seretse Khama had the confidence of having been born to lead, but also the intelligence, no leader. It doesn't matter how intelligent or how well intentioned, can just lead by himself. He has to take the people with him. You have to appreciate that your brain doesn't know everything. And so when you look at just right from the transitional plan, you are seeing there ideas about how important it is that when you build an economy from nothing, never forget that you are building it for the people. Our transitional plan in Elogori, economic and social development must go together. One must not be left behind. So there was a consistent, our our advisors were saying, no, you develop the economy, and
first,
then once you have the economy
the rest will come.
Then you can redistribute wealth.
The trickle-down economics.
And of course, because our advisors were in that mode, if you look at some of the programs that were meant for social development, they did have that thing. They should be, like in agriculture, your people farmer, where money was poured into some pupil farmers, where you teach these guys, they already have loads and loads of cattle. And then the others will learn by watching how those ones are developing their land. And obviously it was a disaster. And so very quickly, the thing with our leaders at the time and advisors is that the level of respect they each had for each other. And so, yes, they had to lean toward what do the leaders of Botswana want? They want a kind of development where you take the people and the economy. They must be harnessed. And so you began to have programs as the economy improved. I guess we were lucky to actually hit diamonds.
Yes.
And government was very, 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 very committed. This money must benefit as many Botswana as possible. And you go back to that founding transitional plan. The commitment was that because Botswana were generally poor, resource poor, and to build a modern economy meant that the government must be the active agent in economic development. But that at some point, the government must step back and let the people actually be the economic agents. That was in the original transition plan. But in order for that to happen, most of the educational resources were put into developing the human resources to help government actually do the planning. And it had an unfortunate tendency that those human resources, who are public servants, had a tendency to want to just replicate themselves, to just build the public service, build, and anything to do with the private sector, what are they up to? Do they have the good intentions of government for the people at heart? Only that element of mistrust for anything to do with the private sector. And that came from a history. When we talk private sector, we are talking of a sector in terms of the modern economy was dominated by Botswana citizens who were not originally from Botswana. The white farmers. And then during the apartheid system, when you talk of colonial history, you are talking about apartheid, even though in other places it wasn't called that. When you look at Southern Africa, people of Indian origins, they were allowed to go into small commerce, but not big commerce. That was reserved for whites. And then also not into traditional agriculture. And so they were squeezed between black and white, and coming independence, they are allowed now. Anywhere is good.
Yes.
It's good. And so we have to look at those historical antecedents to appreciate why our economy is that is. People of Indian extraction, Babango were reasonably poor around independence. Own small shops.
Yes, the trading stores around the country. All this, it's mainly people of Indian origin.
And then, of course, that also opened doors for them. And then, because most of my research is based on government policy, and also for my doctoral studies, I am so confident with what government has put in national development plans, but I've never studied how those plans were received by ordinary folk. And so my PhD thesis was to see, I know the intentions of government, but what do the beneficiaries, when they look at those, what do they see and how do they accommodate that? So that's a story for another time. Yeah. And so when I was relating this to my son now, as it's a business, yeah, I hear you, Mama, but you know, the thing that you didn't study was how those Indian folks looked at those opportunities. Yeah, because I was studying agriculture. While your blacks were looking at, how to improve their cattle and then how to improve their farming, and then going into land when government now started allowing the private sector to take over, to develop land property in the land. And you know what our Indian compatriots were doing? When they privatize, those blacks are going to be needing we go into the business of supplying the needs of Yeah, I have never really studied the role of the Indian community in all my scholarly work. And I was like, yeah, you are damn right. They have expanded and taken over businesses that would otherwise have remained in white hands. Motswana being Motswana, Indians are taking everything. What were you doing? Because the opportunities were meant
for everybody.
So yes, when you look at the development progress, the founding fathers were very clear. When I was doing the National Sustainable Development Framework, the thing that hit me was that all our development plans, most of our development plans, carried the notion people and economy together. Yeah. Yes, the program sometimes failed abysmally, but there was a genuine intent to do good.
Parallel,
but unfortunately, for several decades, the assumption was that the environment is harsh, and so we are struggling against it, and not that environment also needs to be nurtured. We eat from the environment, and where it is challenging us as a people, we find ways of fighting against it.
Yes.
So it had to be left to a few environmentalists to set up, to push for government to have policies, environmental sustainability. And even then, there will be a ministry, a department that deals with environmental issues. Not the environment must be embodied in every economic program, in every social development program. So when we were doing the Sustainable Development Framework, when the UN decided programs, Botswana had been at it for at least 2 decades.
Okay.
So when it became globally popular, Botswana had been at it for 20 years. And some of the people involved thought this was something coming from the UN. No. We've had it. It was just that it was isolated in one ministry. Now we have to see. And my role as a social development aspect was to say, when I look at all development policies and laws, what do they say? How do we embed environmental sustainability? And how do we also properly embed social development policies? Because they tended to be isolated, despite the commitment to having them nations. And then, of course, we also had serious governance challenges.
Before we get there, because I want to give us to give some practical example. Let's go to agriculture, which is a popular one here, in terms of socio and also environment. Because a farmer have experienced that where farmers would, let's say they got the typical 5 hectares. They grow crops. We have rain issues. They use fertilizer. And year on year, they are, planting same crop, fertilizer, till the soils actually get damaged.
Yeah.
And I wanted to now to relate it to the damage means the yields have come down.
Exactly.
Exactly. Sustainability issues or the environmental issues are also hitting. How do you, I just wanted to make what you said.
And also that we are also damaging the very soil, not simply because we are reproducing the same food, the same crops, but also because we are using genetically modified and killing the seeds.
The seeds from the seeds
are already used to being in our harsh environment. We haven't been banking those seeds. We have been getting genetically modified seeds that then damage the environment even beyond your single farm. When I would we are very much into chemical fertilizers. We are into chemical everything to fight disease, animal disease. We are damaging the environment because those who are given the mandate to lead the agricultural revolution in Botswana are so embedded in the cheap things from outside that they have, I would like that separation between government policy. They are driving policies that are causing more harm than good. And the government continues to distribute genetically modified seeds. Every year, they have to be replaced because their longevity is limited. They give you a crop, and then you have to go and get some new ones. So this is a very clear, there isn't a concerted and sustained impact initiative, but what are the environmental things that we are missing? Chemical pesticides are easy to get and easy to spray, but they damage our crops. They damage the land, and they damage beneficial insects and worms that need to be there
as part of the ecosystem.
As part of the ecosystem of maintaining good health. Yeah. So this is one typical example of where
you get it wrong.
Environmental the Ministry of Agriculture is Ministry of Agriculture. Despite all efforts, let us have cross-fertilization of ideas. No, it'll have a think tank or cross what. They do exactly what they want to do without learning from bioenvironment. And bioenvironment, they are busy looking at how we can refix the dongas that are created by data. But honestly, that thing, there isn't enough. The silos remain,
yes.
And they are causing havoc. But back to the question, do we deserve to?
Yes, to celebrate. That's it.
We deserve to,
especially for that first 30 years of foundational.
We deserve to acknowledge what was good and what we can learn from when we did things right. There are many things that were right. That foundation, don't forget. Don't forget. Now we've also learned the people, the planet, and the economy, they must be harnessed constantly if we are going to get the best results in terms of the impact on social upliftment of people, the impact on environmental sustainability, the impact on economic advancement. We have been talking about economic diversity for what? More than 3 decades. And because the diamonds were giving us easy money, it's talk and very little action. Now we are forced by circumstances. The circumstances beyond our control as a nation include the fact that we don't control the prices of diamonds. We don't control whether other people buy diamond rings and jewelry. We don't control that. So, and then of course we don't control DBS. We only have 15% share in DBS. And I see our president wants to take all of it.
Buy the beers,
It's a whole bite to take when the beers itself is 10K.
Going down.
It's a very, very expensive ego-tripping. We forget we are not the only diamond producers. Yeah, De Beers may have gained more money out of the Botswana diamonds than from other countries, particularly in the last 5 decades. But Angola is now beating Botswana to the pipe in terms of the quality of diamonds. And yet we want...
And prospects for growth.
Exactly. And yet we want to take all of the beers. I mean, it doesn't make sense. So there are things... I get worried. When you look... You talked about the Khama regime. You talked about the Masisi regime. The thing that has bothered me about those particular regimes in particular is the tendency, and I see it happening also with this current government, is the tendency to replicate the bad aspects of the programs that BDP had in its... They don't seem to learn certain things were bad and they didn't achieve the results that we wanted. And there were certain things that were good. So we have been... When it comes to the management of the economy, that is what gained us world recognition.
Yeah, the accolades that we received with a double-digit GDP growth.
And also that money was used to build infrastructure, to build schools, and to create jobs. So you could actually see government fighting poverty and winning. But really, when you look at social development indicators, we have tended to build a nation where now people depend on government handouts. That cannot be sustainable. What we should have built was people depending on themselves.
Correct.
With government only there to provide social nets for those that fall
really
through.
Absolute need, yes. Yeah. Because you always have that in any society.
Not a permanent secretary anne a jahela go dira business. Where government should give you money to go and run business. Where is the risk? When are you going to take the risk? When we have said, let government retreat and give us good policies. And then in Selolwane, because you are a government employee and you are also a politician, you want to sit this side as a policymaker, but also sit that side as an entrepreneur.
As a beneficiary
of
your... Yes. So you are conflicted, in other ways.
You are conflicted.
Horribly conflicted.
And the type of policies that you are going to propagate, to run with here, are those that support you to be here and there at the same time. Now, if you look at the Masisi regime, the thing that comes out very, very obviously is that the men in charge, they will cut off the small people. When it comes to government tenders, when it comes to vegetable supply, until their own vegetables. In there, who are the major beneficiaries? The road construction, the vegetable supplies, even vegetable supplies in our shops. Who are the first people to buy the best breeds? Good, habare. Are direng ba go tsa
dikgomo tse di
rileng di tla di pagame fla machine tse e leng gore your average Motswana can't afford go netla. Who are the first beneficiaries? Nyama, ke story hela go te Botswana. They are the first ones to benefit. And so when you look at the problems, the social ills that have beset Botswana, you cannot lie to people who are using their eyes gore ngwana gago o ministera ke ena tsereng the biggest tender as no na set up a company a month or two
before that
wena o sa bolo go struggle. That is obvious. O tsene le motho wa itse gore ngwana yo o ntse a se sepe until the father a tsena mo maemong wa ntlhaloganya. And so those kids, what do you say to them? Hey, the nation of Botswana, we are doing this. They know that's not for them. And so there is that disconnect. There is also a sense of anomie among our people. Because, you know, as the socialist communist scholars, Karl Marx used to say, as human beings, that we were born, we were created to provide for ourselves. And so when there is a disconnect between the labor that we put into production and the outputs of that labor, a sense of disorientation and unhappiness. You work hard, you slave, and somebody just comes, and then business in his entire life. He's already a multi-millionaire. This has happened with not that when in the early days when agriculture must be given priority because that's where most of Botswana were. I get it. But yes, those programs did benefit but were already working for government because banali income that they could invest in. And they were also guided with the modern agriculture. And I know in that area, when it comes to cattle, you and I differ very, very substantially on what should happen. Yeah, but we must remember, those advisors, they grew up both in terms of personal development as physical and also academic in areas that had temperate zones. They were not born in the savannas and in the tropics. And so their knowledge, and yes, I spent a year sabbatical in Switzerland, and I would see there are only 2 Frisian cows. But the amount of
milk yield that they get,
I would feel pain for the poor animal.
Yes,
dragging the udder.
Yes,
it's almost the poor thing. But it
and
had
liters and liters of milk. Yes,
it had a whole field. Now, a Swiss farmer, advice about in this environment, we lost critical information in this environment. The need to rotate over vast amounts of land, which you can't do on a farm.
Absolutely. I
want to, but that is conversation for another time.
Day. I know. Now, because I want us to help people with answers, and this is where the sociologist in you needs to come out, because you painted the scenario very well, where we have leaders that, unfortunately, in other subjects they call them, they are very extractive in the way they think. They think of themselves, how they can benefit, when they're actually the custodians.
Exactly.
Here it is. I was quite taken aback when a president can compete with his own people for a tender.
Exactly.
But some of us, I come from an engineering, so we do systems thing. Yeah, exactly. But where does that come? I mean, my sister, where does that come from? Where exactly how you painted it. You have ministers, you have PSs who develop policy, but their eye is also on the other side. I think that scar or that scourge has really, really eaten this country. It's also obviously tears on corruption, because your mind is screwed, for lack of a better word.
But you can trace it back to 1990, 98.
What happened? What I'm saying is, now let's go to what inspired that negativity that has a tendency or a propensity to actually destroy this country. From a very good base.
There are two things there for me when I look at the whole trajectory. It took long for public officers and politicians to even see that the diamonds had peaked and that they were slowing down. For many years, they just assume that as long as there are diamonds,
life is good.
The money will just come. The problem, you remember President Masisi? Ari. We saw Madi ha ke tso la o dirang ka one. Oh my God. Batumba Modimo. Where are our civil servants are so blind. They are so blinded by being involved in private business that they can't even see that we are heading for trouble. The last 10 years of my teaching at university, my research classes, undergraduate and masters, I don't want anybody coming here they want to do research on poverty. What are you going to do with poverty that we don't know? We know the nature, the character, the causes, right? I don't want to hear anything. I want you to look at something that affects our lives fundamentally. Go and study the diamond industry. Everything that there is to. Who are the players? Who are the producers of diamonds? Where does Botswana fit? And then you can look at our policies. Did we do the best under the circumstances? When you are looking, hindsight is always perfect.
Absolutely.
You can look back and say, look at all our policies. Where did we get it right and where did we get it wrong?
Yeah.
Because we are sitting on a problem that we can all see. Economic growth. We've invested in infrastructure. It's easy to build roads when you have money.
And it's in the people's eyes.
Exactly.
You are doing something.
And I remember one time when I was leading a team of researchers on the nature and causes of character of poverty. Somewhere there go Netlani Motare. Masolwan, our government has been very good at building roads and schools and hospitals and what have you, which you can see but it has failed abysmally in terms of building people. In the privacy of our homes, people are still poor. Because we haven't really equipped people. We have given them handouts. And we continue giving them handouts even in business. Instead of saying that if we want to go into business, we've created policies. You take the risks. The banks are there.
Absolutely.
Just for you. So when you look at, now, what has been the impact of our policies on social upliftment?
But before you go there, because and also I was also fleshing some ideas in my mind. That behavior, because leadership behavior is extremely important to social development, because also is contagious. Because
Yes.
the way they behave, people tend to,
yeah.
like in Botswana, people say, no, if you want to tender for that thing, you got to get a BDP card. I was quite shocked over the years when people say, if you want to go ahead. If you
Go
and people actually go and getting cards.
Yes.
I mean, I've got very mature, intelligent people that you went to get a card and you are an entrepreneur.
Yes.
You call yourself an entrepreneur.
Yes.
So
because they were watching
yes.
that was the optics again. Yeah. No, the thing is, I was leading you to appreciate that blindness that really left me extremely worried. Our civil servants and our politicians did not seem to see that we are heading to trouble. Bona, as far as they were concerned, government had so much money and it will continue having so much money. The thing is how to spend it, not how to make it. And so they went on a rampage. And if you look at how economically, watch Botswana, start monitoring Botswana from 1998, where fortunately, the Khama regime did not change the law that prohibited public servants from trading with government.
The new Khama. There's a new Khama now, not the old Khama.
No. The old Khama.
Done, yeah.
You are a public servant.
Yes. You can't be.
So, how lebelela? No tell just by mere directive. This is where you begin to see Botswana, whether ki principal kana just an ordinary teacher kana king, baya ho set up, ba go sida ba SIPA,
yeah, where you register organizations.
The company.
Company registration board.
Because they were now allowed by government directive, not by law. The law still said, no, you can't uja how neatly ngati. And so, and so bona they had the advantage, they could do that and then control the tenders. Compare that to what happened with that area group. Banne ba founela hala ko National Development Bank ba re ke romela messenger ho o ba kanyetse e re gore messenger ha tsena kwa madi a business a se sa ba kantswe. And look at what Festus Magaye when he was a permanent secretary, the PSP.
PSP, yeah.
Are ga ke ba sekisi ba silo busa madi a but you need. But then he was confident ya gore kana molao wona wa riana.
Yes.
And therefore ba motho a director kana minister a phone ngela re ke romela messenger ko lona ko ebele ba ka ntse madi. A ne tla gore a boe. So there's that combination ya gore who is the leader? Are they still committed to the ethos ya gore you serve? If you don't want to serve, bankana ba ga Festus Mogai, when go bulwa the opportunities to go into the private sector, to go into property development, what did they do? They quit the public service.
Yes.
Sam Bushani left the public service. Exactly.
All those, yeah.
They left the public service because they were brought up
discipline.
Under a culture airing. You are either here to serve or you jump out there and hope for Baba saying, because when you create the conditions for every Motswana to benefit, you shouldn't be afraid of Baba saying, are they going to undermine you? I get
Yeah.
No. These rogue elements have taken over since 1998. The public service. It is okay because the law wasn't changed. But somebody in very senior position, unare bulela aditwe.
Open up for everything.
Yeah. And so when you do that, you are setting an example. It is okay to eat where you are working. Look at kanako ya ga Remasisi when people were complaining ka yona mo leng gore wa itsholela ka ha o ja ka ha. when it was brought to cabinet, to parliament, what was the answer? The answer was that as long as the permanent secretary to the president or the minister allowed it, it was okay. Despite the law saying it is illegal, it is a crime. Somebody stands there. And I had really hoped when I was watching that, that our opposition members, at least would actually say, no, that's illegal. All they had to do was talk to Timon Gatul. No.
You can't allow this.
You can't allow that. Shout and say now, this, a minister or permanent secretary can just disobey. If you want to change a government allow primitive accumulation, change the laws. So that it's very clear. You don't pretend no, we are building a nation where legally it is allowed for people to steal from the public coffers.
Then it's wide and open and it's transparent.
And transparent. But you can't have a law that says that is illegal and then say, no, as long as the PSP or Netani has allowed it, it's okay.
I think earlier.
So that element, the ignorance that I have found absolutely amazing on the part of both our politicians and our senior civil servants. Yes, they are too busy accumulating, primitive accumulation.
And are preoccupied
with that. And then to be not able to see the decline.
Yes.
Is borders on criminal. You cannot lead and be ignorant because the Ministry of Finance used to be on top of the game in terms of what is happening globally.
And the painful decisions that they used to be able to take on behalf of governance.
This cancer is everywhere. Ministry of Finance, under the Masisi regime, we were led to believe the Minister of Finance, the First Lady, and this was said hella publicly. My wife actually helps her. That time I didn't even know we had created an office, an office for the first lady.
Yeah. It did come public. There's an office for the first lady.
When did this happen? Because I was helping at the point with a problem here, DIRADS, RDP hostels. And I come to people's office by Lebo first lady. There is now an official office. They can dump their duties to go and help the First Lady to run basically the Ministry of Finance with the Minister of Finance. So these things happened.
Do you think there's a psychological aspect? I'm now trying to paint, and I know you talked about maybe ignorance, where good times tend to lead to complacency and actually, from a psycho aspect. Do you think that could be an aspect as well? Where you got, like a spoiled child in the home.
Yeah.
Yeah, where these guys have just had it. I mean, in Botswana, the elite, this is something that I have a problem with around public, where the elite are the public servants, the associate executives, and the political elite. And for them, because they are riding on all these good things, and I think you said it, then they get blinded.
They get blinded.
Yeah, they get blinded.
We all, as human beings, have greediness ingrained in us. Renally greed. That is why you have to have checks and balances. Onalenna, I could be tempted. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. Psychologically, it has an impact. You can get away with things.
Yes.
There are no checks and balances. And then it unleashes that natural greed in you e leng gore tota it takes people of considerable integrity to resist the temptation. Why one?
Even the Balabansim fencing, they get tempted to jump over. To say,
And
okay, it's possible. So-and-so is now stinking rich. Yeah, man, I can do.
I mean, even within my own family, you know, I had people, auntie, we have to have BDP cards, otherwise.
It's very pervasive, that thing, isn't it? And I'm very worried because people are even thinking of UDC cards now. Same thing. Like we are this tendency
because
of
they
transfer.
see the tendency there is no major rupture between this government and the old. Here are the standards. My niece would argue with me, and no. This government wants to look at even its own ministers. The forensic audit 10 years. And I know 5 of those years fall under the Khama regime.
Yes.
And obviously the next 5 didn't. These guys, despite whatever you may have heard,
they're out of scope.
They're not within the scope. The current. But we do have existing institutions that are supposed to be monitoring that. Yes. If they are also doing their job, and there is a commitment in the highest office, no one should hide from the eye of forensic. It doesn't all have to be covered by this particular forensic audit. That one is limited to 10 years. That's the only time you can reasonably expect accuracy. Anything beyond that becomes a bit unwieldy.
That's right.
So yes, there's a psychological impact here. Oh, so it's okay to do this, and it goes on. And people forget to do the right thing. People forget to inform themselves. What are our principles as a nation? Elevates. And because Botswana earned a good reputation, managing our resources. People are still riding on the wings of that. Not even on the wings. You look, for instance, as how our Minister of Finance, recognize you for work that was actually done by previous
ones,
not later, because she was a total disaster in terms of allowing the president to allow Bulela Ditso in terms of Hojamadi.
Emptying the national
the coffers that were supposed to
guard and buff Harage. Yes.
I think that was the worst finance minister in the history of Botswana, despite international recognition. That wasn't because of her work, but because of the previous, some of whom, my former colleague, from UB, the finance minister, you know, so there are those elements, an element of blindness, and not personally where I'm sitting, because when you look at the measurement of social upliftment, consistently, the records since the Khama regime are very clear that we get high accolades, deserved accolades. But even before you look at the accolades, when you look at the actual analysis, you will see that we deserve to be recognized for economic management.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
We deserve to be recognized for planning ahead.
Correct.
Which Masisi started off. I am not a great fan of the 2036 bringing nothing new to Netanya. We didn't do a proper evaluation, a thorough evaluation of what went wrong with 2016. What can we learn from that? Before we went on this ego trip. It is an ego trip, 2036. Yeah. So go na le that blindness ya gore diamonds will just continue giving Botswana money, and that government had run out of ideas of how to use that money. Why bona?
Yeah,
Ke mo magoteng go ra gore yana a tsene mo dipateng directly.
So they're not very
But look at this khaitsediaka. If government had said, you know what, we've run out of creative ideas that can actually move the economy. Why don't we give every Motswana 1 million? I want to remasisi instead of remadia khale to go dira sepeka ona a mantsi mo ileng gore a ke la hetsa. If he had come with a brilliant idea instead of gore ene wa go a dirisa jang for himself, hana akila re hela, you know what, I am going to put 1 million pula into Motswana
Mongwe who is a
certain age. 2 million.
I know. I know.
Me gore re dira jalo re simolla at the bottom poorest. Re tla jana. A re dira jalo, we are going to need to ensure gore ga re ba he madi jana hela re 1 million ke yo khatso. It will be taken out of their hands quicker than it in. But where you put in a system give them economic literacy, give them investment opportunities in Zhejiang, opportunities to invest in agriculture, in tourism, in all these things. And then once we start dishing out that money in small tranches.
Yes.
We simulate at the poorest and we go up and then we go up.
For those that can give more, and the risk should be higher for them.
Exactly.
Now, before let's get to the science. Utilize your academic grounding. There is the headache of how the model Botswana has failed the inequality. I know what we've discussed also fits into it. But where in your work do you think scientifically, now looking at the Gini coefficient, which is a measure of inequality, and Botswana dominating the wrong ends with the rest of Southern Africa, which we'll touch on later, where do you think the key aspects that led us astray to develop an economy where so much resides in a few and we've got a bottom that's been left behind, where the whole inclusive thing seems to be eluding us?
It comes from this situation where you do a policy and if we look at most of our development policies, whether Arab, Aldeb,
all those programs that are assisting, FAP,
all of them, they are major failing. They are open to and if we are going to help Batoka, the accelerated rural Arab, scientifically, what did we know about the nature of the soils in our Masimo and Meraka to support that, so that Hamotu on their 2 hectare, 5 hectare adira on that hectare honali scientific knowledge of how to modify, to augment that particular soil regime to be able to harness it in a productive. And I tell you this because my PhD was based in studying the impact of our policies in the Ngamiland area, this side of the Delta. I was based in Gumare.
Okay.
And covering right up to the Etas, and then up to Bo Nokaning Halili Tsau.
I got you.
which literally meant following people to their fields.
Just for those who don't know, that's along the Okavango River.
Yes.
They are going to Ashaka Way on the western
side of the delta. And I would get to Massimo and find, that's a fencing. All those gadgets, and they've been sitting there, and they have gone on with how they've been doing their plowing.
They're plowing.
Because,
for years and years. They hasn't
because
moved.
The city slickers did not have a clear understanding of the flood recession regime. The Okavango floods before the rainy season. And so the farmers there, by Zohori, you take advantage of those initial floods. But you have no idea, Yahori, when they recede, that's when you plant.
Yes.
So that when the rain then comes, and so they would have, a very robust crop, meat from those. Government becomes very cleverly fence
that area.
Whenever if the floods after receding, the rain becomes heavy. You have another flood regime. And so you need to it will not be flooded. You have fenced. Now you need to go and plow. How rain fed. And so they didn't.
Yes.
Because government did not give them the flexibility. If the floodplain recession they'll have a good crop. And they don't even have to plow the 5 hectares. 1 hectare was enough to give them a
good yield
decent,
to be able to feed
but
the
then
family.
When that got drowned, you then had to go to higher ground. Rain fed. Maybe you could do fencing on the rain fed. But then rains holidaying for a long period of time. We're now fencing harder, and so you need your floodplain. The level of ignorance of those who are making the policies. Fits one size fits all.
Yeah, across the country, whether the box thing, the programs are all the same.
So you've had disasters because the people who make the decisions do not fully appreciate the diversity and how people have coped with these physical challenges as our environment because they don't dominate in the policy making circles. And those from that area, le bone they a ke re go rena le go lebela batho go tlase ke mo go teng ba ke ba mambukush ba ke no, when they get into senior positions, they don't push gore no me ga le tlhaloganye go ga rona gore go ntse ja, because they also want to blend by those are city cats. So ignorance dilo, and the most painful one, the management of the cattle lung disease by people making decisions in Gaborone, making assumptions that were so totally wrong. The assumption that the Okavango, the river, was a barrier
for cattle.
The people of that area, if they had been asked, they would have told you, when push comes to shove, you cross that. Yeah, cross. And so they were taken by surprise for the disease also crossed the panhandle. So Renaleone very confident by they are knowledgeable about the whole of Botswana when they know very little about the whole of Botswana. But how long you can't claim so blunder after blunder it's understandable as human nature. And so it behoves us in this modern era to go back and say, what were the failings? What could have been averted? What must we know all the time when we are making policies? And also to have flexibility, knowing that the environment in Botswana is not the same. So the result is that then we have brilliant policies on paper. We have brilliant programs on paper. They clash. They conflict severely, which is what the Sustainable Development Framework was meant to address. Can we reduce the conflicts among and between policies so that these are together? So we did that framework. Does anybody even look at it? We that hey, I'm saving my nation.
Yes. But when you talk about sustainable development goals, my
framework, the framework, yes.
Is it related to the SDGs?
Yes. How are we doing yours? And I was very, very clear to the ministry, please, there is no one at the United Nations who can teach us about sustainability because we have been doing it for 2 decades.
I got you. Is that why we were good? We had performed better than most countries with SDGs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we already had a foundation.
That's what I'm relating to.
So now we should judge ourselves in terms of, since we have been leading, whether it's our compared to many parts of the African continent, given where we came from. But we thought about Botswana have Botswana don't believe they actually have something to teach themselves, to learn from themselves and to teach the world. Somebody
elsewhere.
We were successful. We were growing in an enviable manner. We learned from, we made major mistakes. We made very, very good decisions sometimes in terms of both conceptualization and implementation. And then by the early 1990s, things started to unravel. This is when, for the first time, what was planned and execution,
the divided donor.
And the gap kept getting wider and wider.
Because that's the essence of, because I was trying to detect a little bit of contradiction there, because if we're doing well with SDGs and a bit of good policies, accepting that you said sometimes we had implementation of the welfare state, mananeo. I mean, all these programs to eradicate poverty, especially the agricultural ones, which you were very close to. Why has inequality remained extremely stubborn?
Because
that's really the essence. Is it because
our social I wouldn't even call it social development. Make it our social the social network system became the thing that our politicians loved a lot. The networks, even for people who didn't need networks. It was something to rally for political gain.
Yes.
So instead of building people's capacity to uplift themselves,
the human development
aspect, the social development aspect, take education as an indicator. Social development. You look at the amount of money that Botswana has poured into the education sector. When I started doing research, in the 1990s, Botswana belonged to not 5%, 5 countries in the world. In Southern Africa, Botswana, South Africa, the top 5 countries in the world, by Longhori, the amount of resources we put into the social development pocket where we are looking at education, particularly and health. We belonged to just the top 5 countries in terms of our commitment to those 2 areas as key social development
Globally
areas.
or within the low-income countries?
Globally.
Wow.
We belonged to the top 5 countries in the whole world. But what did we do with our investment in education and in health? In health, there was a close link between what we are spending on health and the results in terms of giving Botswana better health. No, close correlation. In education, a gap. And the gap we focus so much on building schools. Yes, bringing schools to most communities and making a blunder in the process. In order for those schools to continue developing human capacity, you also had to provide those schools with good first-class teachers. We didn't generate enough teachers. We didn't also incentivize teachers that were throwing in remote areas, far from where they could enjoy
services, far from services.
Our social life. So I can count a number of things that were counterproductive to just plonking buildings in an area when the social infrastructure did not match the existence of a school. When you go to most of our junior community schools, you go to most of our primary schools, you are looking at very, very dismal places where the infrastructure is maintenance is poor. For some weird reason, our government has not been good at budgeting for maintenance. So our schools have deteriorated. And of course, when the teachers went on strike, instead of having a government that listens, we are going to fix them. What? Temporary teaching posts. So you don't know when you set for a year, will the job still
what's
be there?
next? Can't let you do side hustles and.
Of course. So implementation, sometimes we are so focused on doing this that we don't see there's a whole package that you need to bring. Yeah. We were wrapped on the fingers. You know the way government has treated Zadirad's.
The ones in the rural areas.
Not just in rural areas. The ones specifically meant to bring schools close to Basarwa communities.
Yes.
The ministry responsible for the education of those young people. The ministries responsible for ensuring that those young people banalidia parolidijo commit a crime against humanity every day that those schools exist.
How?
Ga ba tlhokomele sentle.
Oh.
Ba robala mo di hosteleng tse eleng gore the windows are broken, and you will hear an adult looking you in the eye a go bolela gore those kids are rowdy ba tuba di fenster. Which kids are not boisterous?
Not naughty. Yeah. I was at Lopsec, we broke windows.
Yeah. So if there is no maintenance on the grounds, you know it's going to be fixed tomorrow. If those kids spend hours on end, hosana an adult in the neighborhood, because bacha isitse ba ile malape. Really? Our gago ngwana o ka nna so good left to themselves for hours on end. So, you know, the Children's Convention, the United Nations Children Convention, is very clear the rights of the child. You pick up a particular right or the right to education. Those kids carry all their rights. The rights to have parents looking after them.
To food.
The right to food, to clothing, all their rights, they carry with them everywhere they go. And so when you separate them from their parents, you should provide for them the quality of parenting that is similar to their birth parents. When you look at South Africa, you look at Australia, but other South Africa because their laws are very clear. For a child under 10, the way you build the hostel, young one under 10, under certain circumstances, they have to leave their parental home. Never ever leave that child. Nobody, you should not leave more than one adult, less than one adult looking after 10 children. The hostels must not exceed a certain number, bar 100. Specific laws tse di ring di hostel tse eleng gore ke tsa bana ba ba under 10. Di seka tsa nna le population that exceeds bokana. Ha ba robalang teng, not more than 10 kids must occupy a dorm. And that dorm must have a mother. And highly basimani, a father. Because you can look after 10 kids reasonably well. Your responsibility is make sure I get a part of the time they are the responsibility of their teachers. When I saw somebody decided that to build those hostels, you must think at some point maybe we will have built enough schools for it. So build hostels in future classroom, libraries, but these kids are here now, not 10 years or 20 years. They need hostels that are subdivided so that 10 kids have one mother or one father. Yeah. Ko Netlan ke molao, ko Australia ke molao, ko Nyelane ke molao. Kwano mma ke mama go tinya ke bana ba ba sa re ba hile dikwele go siame.
But let me put you under pressure because, some of us, these things give us headache. I'll give you some 2-3 horrific examples because I'm a farmer. Right deep in the sandfields. And some of the farm workers are obviously, the Sand people, so-called Basara. I had one who because of treatment.
Yes.
There's one who at Form 2, he went to school in the east. They decided that they can't stand it. Apparently, according to them, they walked from the east to the Sandveld.
Yes.
Yeah? Days.
Yes, ma'am.
Running away from the Botswana regime school system. After making it into secondary school, which is not very typical as well. I had an elderly farm worker who had a 6-year-old, and I picture this very vividly. And this young boy, I used to ask her, Kante, ntate so and so, why are you not letting this kid go to school? He's 6 now. And, every day, every time I went there, I saw this young kid with the father teaching him how to head cattle. Why the hell should he part with his father? And there's even a horrific story of a young kid who ran away and was eaten by a lion.
Yes.
But the pressure is, you've been practicing for over 30 years. Lokai. And I always put pressure on Professor Botlale. Why are you academics? Are you locked up in your classrooms. Have they
Mathata ke gona
refused
gore-
you? Ah, ba le kganne.
Ba-
But you got to demonstrate to me gore ba le kganne.
No, the thing is, you can advise a policy. With regards to Zonadi Hostel, let me tell you very
That's
bluntly.
very practical.
Do you know how much research has been done on those? Repeated research over and over again with nothing happening. Nothing happening. In the latest round of research that I did for an organization called Palms for Life, policies can be ignored. You make beautiful policies, and then some minister then says, or the Minister of Finance, ga rena madi. Go sala ka go tule dikwele di latele bana ba kwa. Because now when I did interviews with communities, batho ba ba nnang gone ba bogolo go dipolaseng, some of these are young, intelligent.
Oh, yes. Kids.
Basarwa, I have to use Basarwa because that's the name that people know.
Correct, yes.
Although, politically, ba rile ba kopa gore ba go tuke the Khoisan.
The question, yes.
Or the Kwe, ba Kwe. Me, ba ne ba netla, I met young, bright people in other remote areas tsa Dirazi. Brilliant young men and women. Why don't we have a preschool here?
Yeah.
And have these young people ba ruta bana ba bona.
Yeah.
They are here. But no, they are not employed because, they don't qualify to meet the standards. But we have many preschools but they don't have degrees. Yeah. And so there's an issue will, and then there is an issue recognizing the humanity of others.
You think there's
when we become arrogant,
yeah. Is that racism?
It is racism. People are very proud. Yeah, that's what white people used to say about us.
Yeah.
So a level of commitment. And the reason why I know South Africa, because I needed to see best case scenarios. I took the UK, what do they have in place where we can borrow without really robbing the bank. South Africa, Australia, the checks and balances they have to ensure.
And especially those that have marginalized groups like the Aboriginals.
Yes.
They have the Khoisan in South Africa.
Go UK, but baba tsang tiro a bone serious. Baba inspector to see that the schools comply. Rona, they have killed the inspector.
Yeah, the famous inspector of schools. There was such respect, and the school will panic. Again, how about the inspector?
Yes.
You don't see the same
Those
level
are
of...
the people, somebody should be able to say now, look, this is what the Children's Act says. Our Children's Act, Leone, is weak in the sense it's some of the fundamentals that should actually guide how to create laws that affect the management of hostels. Boba desire they are optional. They may. Di appendices. And so the law works without teeth. And now my recommendation was that only certain provisions here that should be mandatory. We haven't run out of money so much that we can't give all our kids quality education. Because having taught now at secondary school 3 years.
But can I qualify a little bit? But we haven't run out of money to do that. But my little philosophy is that you actually put a little bit more for the most needy. We actually should be correcting the kids that we are talking about who are still in the farms, who are doing nothing, 15-year-olds. For me, they should be getting a little bit more so that we uplift.
But you know how we have spent our money. I get educationally. Reha. You know, when you compare us globally in terms of how much we set aside for education.
Yeah.
But 70% of that goes to tertiary. And tertiary, it reaches how many? Just 1%.
1%, just a little bit.
The government has been warned, Hori. This is the reason why your educational system has collapsed. You have put so much money. Hori, when you take Botswana is still an upper middle income economy. We haven't been downgraded. When you compare us to other upper middle income economies and see how they utilize their education budget, Rona, we spend higher than average of those upper, your Brazils and what have you. We spend higher than average on tertiary. We spend less
relative to primary.
Relative to all middle income. No, the proportion that we put into the education sector. Per capita, we spend more than most other upper middle income economies. Then you come to the secondary school sector. We spend lower than the average upper middle income economy. Primary school, we may as well not even be classified as upper middle income.
Really?
Mudima ba Israel.
That's the root.
Where the majority of the kids are. We spend an abysmally low amount.
And I saw that with the struggle to get reception schools up. We never donate. I mean, our company had to donate to get the classrooms going. Why is that basic foundation?
Do you know, Hela ha GSS? People assume that because GSS high motle butle pung. We had a meeting Sunday as we're trying to build former students, and we were like, Principalare Tibuka Dololo. Those are obsolete, they were cheap, and we don't have enough for our kids. We don't have enough chairs. We don't have Keha.
Middle of the city.
Middle of the capital city. The school is suffering because there's not enough money put in our secondary sector. But our secondary sector creates a bit more money than
the
primary schools. Preschool, forget. We don't even count them. So sometimes it's an issue of how we structure the money. And then some not very, very clever person decided to separate the education sector into give this ministry. So you can't even see when you are failing because the education sector is divided across so many different ministries. In three.
Yes.
I get you fall under Ministry of Trade or something or investment or something. What stupidity is this? Done by somebody don't let us speculate about the jungle. But that message has been told to it arrived go the past administration and the one before. This is inefficient. It's also inefficient to spend money without saying, but what is the impact? What was this money intended for? Has it actually impacted on the people who are supposed to be beneficiaries? The gap between what is spent and the impact gets wider and wider all the time. So our educational system has collapsed, not because of shortages of money, but the appalling manner in which we distribute the cake.
And it's a huge contribution to the inequality, which is the bottom line.
Exactly. We've had disparities between urban and rural. And they continue to happen. Bana ba batlang ko sekolong tsa di-rads. Batla even preschool ba iske ba ibone. And there's no provision how do we bridge the gap? And then we abuse them mo go tlhomolang pelo. Those hostels, anybody can get in there, and they get
They're
raped.
still like this today, ne? They're still like that.
I'm
today.
talking about ki hetsa go reporta on just in 2023. When I was asked to do this research, no, before I go anywhere, I need to see. I'm an academic. Yeah. When you do research, you also find out who has been doing research before you and what they find, so that you don't repeat.
Yeah, absolutely.
You build something.
Yes, yeah.
Like Jesus Christ.
So
many people have so much money wasted on research on the same hostels.
So your answer to Lokai, I see it out now about Professor Tabula, they're there now,
we
and
write,
all that. So
and
we
nothing
hope
happens.
Nothing happens. It's execution.
It's
everything
execution.
is on paper. It's been written.
Execution. Execution. And if this new administration does not value the research, that nobody can come and do better research than us. The information is already there. It's for people to sit and say, now, what can we learn from what is available by way of information, research, what is available in terms of what went wrong with our previous policies, instead of repeating those policies. What went wrong? Who be this World Bank at least you think they come with answers? They come and ask us.
Then replicate what you had said. Because it becomes
and then it becomes business as usual. It's very, very unfortunate. The commitment. We need leaders. You can't do everything, but you can identify key things that really need urgent attention. That really need urgent attention. And to trust its own people.
Hey, that's another subject, that one.
When I was
I've been a consultant for 25 years. That one is the opportunities we've lost because
when we were doing the Sustainable Development Framework. There was one time when the directors and middle management and senior management and the permanent secretary had the audacity to inform Dr. Selolwane, all the work that you've done, but they are bringing professors from Harvard and Oxford. Direct, it blew a fuse. It blew a fuse. You are bringing a professor who's never had to go to the toilet in the bush. You plonk them more san. You can't even put them so that they can appreciate. Huh? You think those guys will come and perform miracles here? So honali tendency then
it's unstudied. I mean, sometimes when I draw back to you academics, this thing has harmed this country, and we're about to go into Africa. And I think it's an African thing, having traveled a little bit. And also that leads me to the next question, because we ended up nicely on execution policies. And you gave me a very beautiful example of the work you did with Morocco and all that. Now, I just want you, as we go towards the end, to just put some light on how practically a study and an observation, a country in Africa that has actually made a difference within 10 years. Just tell us about the work that you did.
Morocco used to have slums, real slums.
Like the South African ones. Like the South African still has slums. Like, Kenya.
Yes.
I went to Ghana. There's still...
People come, I had invited some academics here, researchers from across the continent. I get, hey, Botswana is so, yo. I get, okay, let me go and show you real slums. Old Naliti. Qu'est-ce que c'est? Regarde. Basupamatlo nitla. You call that Botswana is really a very rich country. If you call the slums. Always appreciating how things have really
moved,
changed.
Yes,
yeah. Because the naledi that I knew as a child.
Ditakana. Because ditakana means real slums, isn't it? Yes.
Kadi cast offs from building sites. So Morocco decided they can't just continue having slums, but it's okay. And then they took a decision between 1995, the next 10 years, they were going to reduce slums by 50%. So they started building. Yeah. And indeed, by the 10th year, most of those slums areas had been transformed into high-rise buildings for the slum dwellers. Non-slums, the slum dwellers elsewhere. So that's one of the examples, because when I was doing for the United Nations, in the committee that I said I'd served with, I was comparing different regions of the world in terms of housing, what they had to overcome in terms of housing and in terms of education, and the impact of that on the quality of life of the citizens. So I know for a fact, Morocco, at least that 10 year, I haven't gone back to see since. But by the time, because Harry Dira say, I would have to see when I served in that committee, go UN. Those 10 years and the impact that had on housing in Morocco. Very dedicated. We are going to do this. And they did. And it reminded me, in the early years of independence, what was in the National Development Plan. Halfway through the plan, there was also a review. Are we still going to meet our target? What went wrong, so that you could tweak the thing, so that by the end of the plan period, the plans overlapped. This plan, the next plan is similar in the middle of that one, until no. Let's have a midterm review instead of that plan overlap. It's confusing. So it is possible, and I've looked at several countries. I've compared China to sub-Saharan Africa, to the African continent as a whole, and to Latin America, and of course to other continents. China was a third world country, not long ago.
The 80s, just the other day.
I was sent there by the university, by the vice chancellor, the then vice chancellor, so that the university could also reinvent itself and have an impact. And I was also sent to America by the same vice chancellor. Frank Young Man, when he was vice chancellor, to China. So by the time Kidira this 1 year UN, I had the privilege of actually going and seeing and going to several institutions and seeing how they were doing things. But China did something that would sound appalling to us. Bana adopt a system bari Chuyen. It's one larang. That's why my son's Chinese name is Chuyen.
Sunshine. Is it sunshine?
Well, larang.
Yes.
Because the sun shines with all its rays.
Yes.
So, let's take our brightest and best. Because our educational system has so far not done well. the best students, Rabbi Isekai, everywhere in the world where the education system obviously so that they could learn in the best universities and then come back. So they send kids to France, to Netherlands, and Netherlands. Totally inegalitarian, I must say. Yeah. But when you are starving, my son used to say, Mama, if you have a bowl of rice and you have several kids, and do you want to give each one of your kids two grains of rice? Or do you want to feed one over when to help
whilst we wait.
So I've had to live with Nathan. Sometimes you need to spend on your best
on a bit to bring
so
the bigger.
That they can bring in
something
bigger.
But
they were coming back to a structured Nathan. We were going really much China, that is to upgrade our kindergarten. We had to have the best. And they because China is so big, they would have what in Botswana context would say, Katle must have a university that looks at the economy of Katle and produce human resources for Katle, for Kalahad, in its own university and its own institutions. And then you would have universities that are national, which means they provide for the whole of China, the human resources. So that in silk producing provinces, you had to have people who would actually make an impact in the silk industry.
Got you.
Yeah. But they were very intentional about how their educational system should impact on industrial development. It didn't take them long. I think when I went there, I guess 2006, when I went to the official visit, Yasilo, I went to some of their best medical universities. And I was like, huh? This was the first time I was actually seeing human cadavers.
Oh, really?
From a week-old thing, right? And those were Chinese, to the oldest men in a university. You must learn the human body. This is how it looks. So, and then also their marriage. We borrow from the West, but we don't dump our own knowledge. Rona, we dump ours. Anything that comes outside Botswana must be superior. And we do the same with human beings. If you are a Botswana, you are an inferior person, knowledge-wise, despite
taking you to all these top schools.
So that I compared that and where our system in it. And when you are right as a Botswana, that's why your thing ends up in Italy. When World Bank comes and does exactly what Botswana have been doing, Dr. Changuma Natoko Ustaleka advisor on how to structure our education. Who listens to them? So it doesn't matter. UN person 20 years later, 30 years later, exactly the same thing that Changuma Natoko had been telling us, and nobody listens. So no value. So we really have to have a leadership. It isn't just about knowing our history as a nation. It's knowing, as a nation, we have been producing knowledge. Whether that knowledge comes from an academic area or from rural, our people survived without having degrees. Obviously, they have knowledge that needs to be tapped into. And that is why my Pan-African organization of social scientists, Codesria, decided last year, COVID is known as Selema ka Mahatsa Africa, makhwaba gana ka melemo ya bone. But how come in rural areas, people are not dying like in cities? There must be something that they know that most city slickers don't. And so we launched a research program that is supposed to facilitate a non-extractive research program where you identify the knowers of traditional and alternative medicine. What do they know about? Then you can take them to the lab, like the Chinese did.
And practice them.
What is it that these people know to be medicinal and effective that has not been captured by science? And so you just put scientific figures to what those guys will not be able to tell you pH soil, but they will tell you this thing will work for this disease and that, which many scholars would say, dosage. When you eat herbs are food. They are medicinal as well. Will somebody tell you you can't eat Morocco because it's an overdose? That level of stupidity that was meant basically our traditional knowledge and give it the value that so we launched this study last year, and there was only one young Botswana sociology student that I was nurturing. Well, basically took over from a former student of mine who also became a colleague. She won out of, I think, 600 applicants. For NETLA. So hale, we are doing something. But sometimes, create space where that knowledge, if government is not ready, surely there's space where we can act as NGOs, as private sector, to initiate things. Governments normally catch up with something when it's good.
When it's see that they see the
results.
So now I like the execution example, Morocco. I think what we are saying is that it's happened through very focused leadership.
Yes.
Where, as you said, within 10 years, the slums were halved.
50% of the slums
China has done a historical thing. I mean, they say the hundreds and millions of people that have been transformed from poverty to middle class has never happened in this space of within 40 years.
Yes.
So us with whatever poverty done line, or we are 200-300 people who are in poverty. And then you can't eradicate poverty. Now it leads us to the big question. We've got a new government. I've been noting what you're saying.
A new admin.
Human rights. You've talked about human rights. You've talked about, and human rights here, we talked about isolated communities. We've talked about schools. Now we are the new government, which is BNF-led in the UDC regime. It's supposed to be a left-leaning social democratic layout. Now I want you to just confirm whether you'll give this whole podcast some hope. To say with those credentials and the BETP and NDP, should we be hopeful?
Left wing doesn't necessarily mean that there's a superior government in office. And then of course there's a whole question mark: is it actually left leaning? There is no guarantee that just because people say they are left wing, they actually do provide for social upliftment. You've had countries that are not left-wing leaning.
And they've uplifted.
But they have uplifted. It's an issue, we want to uplift. And this is how we are going to do it. Does it matter whether you are left or right-wing? All of the people, both right-wing and left-wing, must buy into that policy. They must support it. They must do everything that's possible for it to be successful. It can't just be left-wingers. We have serious right-wingers here with brilliant ideas. And so, for me, the last time I was called to comment, and I was supposed to have gone back, but they decided I was maybe not worthy bringing back to discuss. The challenge is that you can have brilliant plans. The one thing that worries me about this new administration, I know Botswana were expecting miracles. Now my position has been, we shouldn't, this government, this administration should not be deterred by the fact that the money is not coming in droves because of the problem with diamonds. Because in 1965, 66, what did we have? we have been where we had to beg for money from others before, but with less human resource capacity than today. And so the kind of leadership that will transform where we are to high is a leadership that recognizes first and foremost that it actually has the human resources, just basic critical mass, human resources, which have been to university and back, which has served in many different capacities outside Botswana and back. Harness that power. Recognize, Hori, in the last 15 odd years, we have dropped the ball. We have generations of Botswana who have not been properly educated, properly skilled. Ba eleng gore ba bangwe are past school age. They are out there in the community being very frustrated, wondering should they take this card and that political party card in order to win that tender and survive. Really disenchanted because we have had an appalling educational system that has failed us abysmally in just 1.5 decades. So this administration has to appreciate they need to look back to those there where the system dropped them out and retool. Because you can't kill them. They're here.
Yeah.
How do you bring retooling to those who are past the educational age, the schooling age? But at the same time, look forward where the young ones must not fall into the same
trap. Yeah.
And this we have the advantage, children below the age of 15, they no longer overpower the population like they used to in the days, in the 80s and 70s, really. Because when you look at the population dynamics from the 1950s, they have been shrinking in number, in the proportion
to the larger population.
But by 2011, for instance, they had reached just 1/3 of the population. That means that the demand on the number of schools that need to be built. But unfortunately, we have too many young people who are jobless and poorly skilled that we need to deal with. But the 2021 population, it hasn't been fully analyzed because limited resources. You are beginning to see a peak. Population these young people, but nowhere near almost 50%. So honestly, a population dynamic which gives this administration an advantage. There are not that many overwhelming. The dependency ratio is not as bad as before.
Yes.
And so when you tailor programs that actually benefit families, where young people, you give them a second chance while not neglecting Babasha. Then you have, you are looking backwards and forwards, you are bringing those young people, you are also making sure the next generation, human resources are fundamental to how I learned that when I was looking at Latin America. The countries that gave human resource development, human resource development is tertiary. Tertiary is already have had the advantage of going through the system.
And they're limited in number.
They are limited in number. You have to deal with a foundation, Bill. You look at Brazil, you look at where Brazil was 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 60 years ago, or where you compare, have not been successful at industrialization. The people coming out of tertiary institutions and government, they did their import substitutive industrialization at a time when the global terms of trade were still favorable to primary product producers. And so when the terms of trade changed, bona bane ba setse ba dirile import substitution to industrialize. So when the terms of trade changed in favor of manufactured goods,
they already
bane ba setse ba dirile foundation,
yeah.
and so they took off. But it meant education and also can we not produce the things that we are buying from others? Compared to Botswana, I adopt the privatization. Our people have been pushing, if you supply government tenders, what's goods from China, you are still privatizing. For heaven's sake, if you are going to be supplying things from China, instead of substituting them with industries. And the reason they do that, if you are going to substitute, you can't do that sitting in an office. You have to come out there, take a risk, set up a manufacturing plant.
Take a loan.
And those months you are eating nothing. And make sure it succeeds. Jan Barona want to copy ele, not by substituting products that they manufacture, but by just buying ready-made goods from China, repackage and sell to government. That has never worked anywhere in the world because it doesn't support the actual production in the country.
And industrialization.
Yes. So, if this administration continues doing the wrong things that the previous two administrations did, have you ever driven in a very, very, when I was doing my PhD, the vehicles would get stuck in the sand. Most on the sand. And, I had to tuck in to get them. And I guess sometimes I needed to so that people were disparate.
Yes.
Tuck in, my dear, tuck in. So that you could give the wheels traction.
Some traction, some friction.
I've learned to survive under sandy conditions and under when we are stuck in it, in the mud. Oh, yeah.
So in summary, if they could look at, and I like the way you've centered human resource. I read something which is quite scary, which was saying, and I don't know how robust that was, where they say Botswana's human capital capability is only developed at 41% level. That was quite scary. I don't know the formula.
Given the amount of money that we spend in the education sector, it's not value for. We haven't really spent value for money. We have prioritized churning out people from universities.
And turning them into the public service. We have a huge public service.
Yeah. And then they acquire the same public service mentality of not caring, are we making an impact?
Yeah,
there's a policy here. What is the intended impact? Our public officers are happy to spend money. When you say now, program they will readily give you the figures, the financial figures of how much they've spent. Did it make an impact? Dololo. I remember being extremely frustrated when we were doing this sustainable development framework. Gumare in particular, interviewing some district officer. what has been the impact of all our programs on poverty? Oh, we spent so much. We've distributed these packages. I know. I did my PhD here before you even went to university. Impact, Manak. How much poverty, extreme poverty did we have in your district? How have the programs reduced that? Totally clueless, because those are not things they measure. Hey, when their ministers come back, all they tell them, how many packages they have distributed. And sometimes they distribute to the same people over and over again. Next time the elections, they give you goats. They don't care what you did with the goats. So they are able to know we distributed X number of packages and extra. The packages that thing, they are still sitting there.
Sure.
But there's no growth because they don't care. Nobody asks them. But baba benefitileng. Jano kana nebahile kana ke 20 goats kana 10.
20, I think it's 20.
Goats since in a couple of years.
Yes.
No, nobody asks those questions because our city slickers in Gaborone are really not interested in impact, social impact. We need a leader who would say, what is the social impact? What is the social impact of our nation? What's the use spending money? And all you can tell me is that you spent it. Without saying, but so many poor people have been uplifted. I remember one elderly lady that study poverty. We had to ask her what people understood by poverty. I wanted to find out, have they always been poverty? I remember one elderly lady antari. When you are given food, every month you are given food. This one is from my field. This one is from my sweat. It doesn't matter that they give you that food regularly so you don't starve. You are still very poor.
The poverty is still there.
Poverty.
So you haven't eradicated poverty.
You haven't eradicated it. We apply first aid. And you keep applying first aid to the same wound, even though it's festering underneath.
Dependency becomes the issue.
So, no. Until arrive there because old age.
Incapacitated, yeah.
And then bana bone ba dibile gore tanda bala iteng namololubo iteng really don't have to struggle. Ba nna ba emetse tanda bala mna ba tla ba itatlhela ha ba netla ka ha leng gore ba phuka teng. Hey kana remember one lady not much younger than me. Allah sama yo gore bo khaitsedi ga ba motlhokomele and then ma o ipelo ga mo tsenya mo di programming tse di ntle kore no sense of agency
within herself. Yes,
I am entitled to be looked after. This woman had about 8 kids. Like nobody's business. And then comparing her to that old lady in some village as long as I'm fed, I'm poor.
Yeah, that's right.
If I can't, with my own sweat, put food on the table, I am poor. Obviously, when you are aged, and banabahaho do not follow the netane, they must provide for themselves. You have generations of poverty.
And dependency.
Dependency and poverty. And if you look at the records, destitution and just your regular poverty, would tell you, there are so many human beings that ought to be assisted. They are poor, but we have enough to assist this, and so we have to use other criteria than poverty to say you don't qualify. Are you able-bodied? Even though we know there are no jobs. If you are able-bodied, maybe it's a more but you are shifting You are just shifting the problem
the
to another
burden.
government program
Yeah.
that is not providing human beings with skills. Yeah. So sometimes when we are critical of the new administration, people naively think that we wish it
Badly.
to fail.
Yeah.
Whereas it is to say, you are leading all of us. And if you mess up, we all fail.
Yeah.
We all suffer. So it is in our vested interest for all of us, this administration must not fail. But ga ke re wa itse gore from 2000, go ne ga ntshiwa a good chunk of money from the Ministry of Finance gore e se ka thola ya administera di-pension tsa babereki ba puso a kere. Gore that money should be administered in the private sector.
Yes, elsewhere, yeah.
The law was created in 1999, and the first batch of money was released in 2000. This is 26 years ago. And that it basically had an instant impact on the banking sector in terms of the money that our bank started actually managing.
Yeah.
And also in the insurance industry.
Yes, you created a little industry by itself.
Yeah.
Yes, the BPOP.
And that industry's resources are as large as the government budget. The money held by banks is as much as the government budget. But people are still looking at government to deliver. They don't say, but shouldn't our financial institutions be playing a robust role? Again, we don't vote for the bankers. But they are supposed to be a business. They are supposed to not just be making money for batho ba ba who brought the banks here, but having an impact in our social upliftment. Are they doing so? They are not doing so fantastically because the same government has also set up packages of Netlani where they are putting money to compete with the banks. Instead of saying, banks, you know how to do your job properly. You know that most banks in Africa, they operate like this mouse. They don't have depth. In terms of financial thing. They don't have long-term. I mean, if you are going to support industrialization, you can't have FNB because whenever but when I'm in time you are still building factories and land board is taking you through hoops and loops. Something we won't even give you the land. And so our systems are not geared at all working towards the common goal. So and we fail. Not because we don't have money, but because we don't have a leadership with a very clear strategic goal. Face in that direction. You can only appeal to banks, create policies that encourage them. Your sustainable development impact your neki in. Lona in the other private sector. What is your contribution? Besides giving handouts, can you create an engine that will drive towards sustainable production and sustainable employment creation? We don't do that. And if this administration continues with the failed programs of past administration, we don't wish them badly. We wish them to, for God's sake, wake up, smell the cookies, do the right thing. You have human resources. Yes, dinali challenge, but hey, after more than 60 years, almost 60 years of building capacity. Renali critical mass. We have retired public servants. Yeah, well, public servants, Babu Holo at least had that commitment to service. We have young, disillusioned Botswana who need to be given, you know what, things are changing. And you must be both beneficiary and driver.
And also the driver, yeah.
Yeah, no, haba itshupere hela ba bona bo mmati ba bone le gore hela batho ke ba le ba jadi kana gompeko yana ke mo go teng batho ba jadi million. When you can't even get a decent 6,000 pula job. You see how debilitating it is. Botsana ke boitlhobo go netla gore ye anka pusha di drugs gongwe ke ka khona wa bona.
Desperation.
That's the kind of vision that we want to see displayed by the new administration. Acknowledge where Botswana, and people must remember it isn't just government doing things. How did government motivate Botswana? We were motivated, you serve a nation. And you see that spirit in the building of the University of Botswana. When Lesotho dumped us.
Then we had to move fast.
Botswana, komo motho le motho komo. So how nsatlatlana amabele, it's okay. Atla rekisiwa towards when I became a lecturer at university, Professor Tlo was very clear. Now, look, you don't come here and sit in an ivory tower. Yes, you will teach. Yes, you'll do research. But in order for you to get promoted, you must serve. Where is your community? We are not prescribing what community serve, but serve. Serve outside teaching and research.
It was a requirement.
It was a requirement. You had to meet those 3 criteria. Yeah. And you had to meet them in flying colors. Yeah. Until, of course, you had guys, that system. Yeah. And always the result is the same. Things deteriorate.
Yeah.
Things deteriorate. You can't continue. Economics is very harsh.
It is.
It has no color. If you don't do it right, it will punish you. It will punish you. When you may gain $1 million, our politicians, 5 years later, ki billionaire. What's the guy billions for all these years? They are leading towards being billionaire. Is disincentivize young people from taking education seriously. It also, it is a very, very bad precedence got the quality of governance. Whether you are governing an NGO or governing a private sector company, bad when the idea is how to get rich quickly.
Yeah. Which is the culture
leadership is about you'll find NGOs fighting over money.
Really?
Yes. Because they set up NGOs now. If I can't get those government tenders, then I can lie to somebody, I'm running an NGO, get some guys to put in money, and then before you know it, guys are driving very, very expensive.
But the NGO.
Yes, a bank, nice bank accounts.
Also, let's come to an end. We need to come to an end. And I need you because one of the things I was thinking of with this podcast was, if we, because the economy is going through such a tough time,
which is good for us.
Which is good for us, and I'm getting there. If we go through such harsh times, but if we had built a very robust and tough social fabric, but they've got courage. There's no get rich quick type mentality and all that. It's actually easier to go through these type of circumstances. Now, unfortunately, we have the results of the inequality And then we have so much trust lost in our systems. I mean, yeah, where people are looking at the new administration with like about trying to hella type thing. So it's a very worrisome for me. We are getting a society which is getting extremely cynical. So as your final comment, what would you say to the 27% adult employed, 38% of the youth who are employed, just as a social scientist, to say during these harsh times, what can they do at individual level? What about trade in drugs, because this does not look very good.
Yeah.
This
And
is
this
a
is
final
where
comment.
I think you can genuinely say, I'm retired.
Yeah.
And I retired, 11, 12 years ago, and retired into my backyard garden.
I saw you smile, Kantalari, your backyard. You all of a sudden it's like, come on, I'm not very well. How's it?
Yeah. This is where you could genuinely be saying, but Dr. Selolwane and all these university professors, and some are still struggling go university. What exactly are you doing for your country? And I know I fobbed you off. We did policies. Yeah, that was when I had a full-time job. Now that we have retired, what should we be doing? The brains are still functioning, I get. We cannot continue expecting government to deliver everything.
That's right.
Why are we not building, coming together? Ghana, you can't do much, only knows. But that impact, there are things, in very much the same way you can set up an NGO. We settle some fool should be drawing money here when I take a Range Rover. You could also build non-governmental societies that really target how can we help government with human resource development.
Got you.
Does it have to be us making money? Or is it okay for us to set up institutions and even utilize the existing institutions? If we partner, for instance, with government, now look, let me take my former school, GSS. Yeah, it's not in good shape. Shortages. Government is still very much in love with having senior secondary schools there and juniors. What is to stop us as alumni? Could we partner with government everywhere where there are government schools and institutions? We are former teachers, some of us, we are former university. Is it, for example,
I got you.
Is it possible for us, let us utilize those very premises, spruce them up, so we also assist with resources that are required here.
Like the chairs and all those.
But at the same time, we would like this institution is already provide education from Form 1. We'll take care of if you government is still in love with Netherlands, we'll take care of the 3 years.
Yeah.
The first 3 years. But we also want to add maybe two additional years, so that when kids leave GSS and all our senior community, they don't have to go to UB only, because it can only take. They should be able to go to South Africa,
correct,
to go to UK because they meet the entry requirements. It's safe.
Yeah.
This is something we can do. Our knowledge, we can teach. But we need premises. Some of GSS has produced. Some of our senior judges are from GSS. Ministers,
entrepreneurs.
We have entrepreneurs. These guys, ba tswa ho so many ba tswang ha mo e leng gore if we put our heads together and if we don't have ministers ba ka reng ba lwala ba sa batle for us to touch confidence in Botswana.
Yeah.
No, look, can we help here? The school must be something. The junior communities, why don't you put, instead of this being junior, add Singwayanakaha and add Singwayanakaha so that the premises are there. You know, most of our schools are built in very, very large compounds.
The area size are huge. Yeah, and I've seen that.
Why don't you allow robust development that doesn't just depend on the government purse? Now you know education is my thing, and most of my life I have spent my own money ensuring I only have one child. But and then the grandchildren when it comes to spending money on education, you know, for years because I didn't have a car. Because I was paying school fees. Yeah, I was going school fees. Hopefully with the youngest my grandnephew Karabo.
Karabo,
this
yes,
one,
I've seen, yeah.
I'm retiring.
Yeah,
this one no more school fees. I've been paying school fees since I was 22 years old.
Wow.
I'm going to be hitting 71.
Yeah.
So Karabo backstop. Fortunately, you know, I've never had to do anything for my granddaughter because my son. Okay. But you see,
there is a way. Which and all of us have got our own ways of contributing. Yes.
So you could do the same thing with health facilities. How many retired doctors and nurses?
And nurses never, it never comes out of them.
They can also come together. Our hospitals and clinics. But that means instead of me going to build a private clinic here, why don't we a partnership with government? The underutilized facilities really spruce up so that we are not just waiting for the government budget. We know it's diminished. But can we raise the funds? And look at the patela za Botswana. There's a private sector, private wing, let's on government hospitals, private and public. Now, under the same roof, we can do the same also.
Yeah.
Look, if we want a private part, we've been paying oodles and oodles of money to these health insurance policies. Long before the 12th month is elapsed, they couldn't pay for my tablets.
They didn't approve.
No. But 290,000. But no, that's for chronic disease.
Yeah.
And I had mentored, you can see, I'll storm their offices. They're going to tell me some fantastic story about ERA and what have you. But what we know, we are putting a lot of money into these insurance policies.
Right.
It's high time that money, they can make a policy. If, you know, when we are young, we hardly go to hospitals.
I mean, our first 20 years of contribution, you hardly use it. The
government had said, now, if somebody doesn't actually utilize that for data, for God's sake, 10% of that should go towards, you know, improving
general health.
The health, the quality of service that's provided by, and that, you know, they should utilize. Why are we not utilizing government facilities for our thing? Because if a portion of that money was going into the government hospitals, do you think they would be dilapidated like this? Akira will demand, no, if we are going to have a private wing here, it has to compete with Sidilech in terms of the quality of service. And in terms of the kind of doctors who would also want to practice, you'll find some of the same doctors as they are. Why not go government hospital?
Exactly.
Because the incentive is not there. You have government officers who make decisions who couldn't care less, because they're only looking at government or provide the money. If you don't, then things deteriorate. There are things we can do. They may look small, but would have a big impact
on our society.
The burden. We know they are suffering under.
Suffering, yeah.
And that the previous regime, yes, the recurrent budget, it should be financed by money that comes in. But
and I like what you said, also the crisis is good. Let's not underutilize the crisis.
Yes.
Because this is the opportunity.
This is the opportunity to say, now, with government crippling,
exactly,
what can we do for our country?
Absolutely.
Why, government is crippled. Yes, sometimes they spend money like short. Because, if you spend lavishly, then
the message you are sending out there. So now we have to end here. Yes, thank you so much. It's been lovely. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, poor viewers, there we go. Such wisdom, such experience, such knowledge. And as I said, a huge concern around the social welfare of the people of Botswana, the people of Southern Africa. We haven't even finished. There are things that I wanted to ask, we didn't. So I'm sure she'll come again and we can carry on some of the subjects. So thank you so much and enjoy, and make sure that you share with your colleagues so that we really try to find out how can we sort out our dear country and our dear continent. Thank you and see ya. Guys, the Growth World family, thank you very much for watching, and we really appreciate it for the growth that we've gone through the past year. But the bulk of you are still not subscribing on our YouTube channel, and we'd like to encourage you to please subscribe so that we can increase the viewership and the reach. And those that are not on YouTube, please also share, like, so that we can reach more people out there. Whilst on YouTube, we also have a very vibrant WhatsApp community that we will love you to join in as well, where we do debates on these issues. The community you can find on the description aspect of the YouTube. So go there and you can join our WhatsApp community. Thank you very much.